All that I know is only revealed in what I am. What I am translates only to what I apply in my relationships. I heal myself as I share the best that is in me, so that the best that is in everyone blossoms. This is the medicine of the wolf. Recently, the wolf has made itself known to me, and there has been a spontaneous rising of a deep curiosity and interest of wolves in my being, to really understand them and to learn from them and to recognize my kinship with them. And as I learn more and more about wolves, I recognize so much of myself in them, and I see how much wolves can be an inspiration, an example for me and for many of us humans of how to lead, how to be a part of a community, a pack, and how to show up in confidence and in strength, to use one's power to fiercely protect and to care for everyone that I'm responsible for and that I find myself connected to. And I just watched a documentary yesterday on wolves and the medicine of wolves. And the information within the film really helped me understand how misunderstood these creatures are and how many myths there are. The wolf mythology in terms of the big bad wolf and the negative connotations we have towards the wolves, and also more in just the political world and in the real world, how many wolf hunts there have been and how much tension and angst there has been towards wolves and their mere existence in our wild lands. And I think specifically in Michigan or Minnesota, I forget. And in doing more research, I also recognized a myth of what we view as alpha behavior. Of course, we've all heard this idea of the alpha male, and the connotation of the alpha male is someone who's really strong, domineering, essentially kicks ass and takes names, doesn't say sorry, is very closed off to their emotions, and will be super competitive and not have much empathy. Essentially, an alpha male walks around with a lot of apathy and is looking out for number one. And I thought it was interesting because I bought into kind of the same connotation of this word alpha and what that really means. But I learned some things that actually showed me that that's not fully true. So there was this researcher named Rudolf Schneckel, and he studied captive wolves in a zoo in Switzerland in 1947. Okay, he studied captive wolves and their behavior. And he was the one that came out with this idea based on what he saw, that there is this power hierarchy in wolf packs, and that essentially you put a lot of unrelated wolves together, and the one that is the strongest and can assert his dominance the most will become the alpha pack, or the alpha of the pack. And then there are essentially wolves lower on the power hierarchy, and the alpha will be constantly being aggressive and asserting his dominance to control the wolves that are underneath of him. And so this became the accepted attitude towards what it means to be an alpha wolf. And this idea was also supported and made more popular by another researcher named L. David Meck, where he studied wolves in northern Michigan. And in 1970, he published a book called The Wolf: Ecology and Behavior of the Endangered Species. And he emphasized, again, this idea of competition and dominance for rank. And emphasized this idea that alphas were those who were domineering, aggressive, and very violent. And they used these qualities to fight off rivals to become the supreme leader of the pack. And so throughout the 20th century, this was the common attitude adopted by researchers about wolves. Now, I would like to say that I've done some superficial research on this. I'm sure that the full picture is a lot more nuanced and complicated, and there's just a deeper reality to the story, but this is what I understand and I think just supports my overall point. So taking that with a grain of salt, I am not a wolf researcher, nor was I getting this information from peer-reviewed sources. So, but that doesn't mean that there isn't truth to it. So in the 20th century, there was this belief that gray wolf packs formed each winter among independent and unrelated wolves that lived near each other. And so much of this research was based upon witnessing and observing the behavior of wolves in zoos in captivity, and then as well as wolves that were once in captivity and placed into the wild. So yes, when some wolves were placed into the wild, there definitely was some behavior of the strongest wolf essentially asserting their dominance and becoming the alpha of a pack. Essentially, that wolf kicked ass and took names. And I say that phrase from from an article that I read about wolves. And yeah, wolves would organize a pack hierarchy based on physical aggression and dominance, and the alpha wolf was the strongest. However, okay, we studied wolves in captivity, and we studied wolves that were in captivity and were put into the wild, wolves that were not bloodkin, and wolves that were unrelated. And then researchers started to study what the behavior of wolves, their packs, and the behaviors of alphas were when the setting was natural, out actually in the wild. And so there was this other researcher named Rick McIntyre, and he observed wolves for more than 20 years in Yellowstone and saw that actually there was really a different story than what we thought was true, in that packs were usually just these little wolf nuclear families. So the alphas were the mother and the father, and the rest of their pack was their children. I believe I read like 11 to 13, but I could be wrong. And essentially, the alphas were just the breeders of the pack. And there is a completely different story, because where researchers were expecting these observations of many fights and the alpha being extremely aggressive and extremely domineering, what they actually found was that the alphas were extremely nurturing, and they were calm, and they were constantly caring for and tending to their pack. And I believe this is really powerful. First, to dispel the myth of what alpha actually means, and I want to dive a little bit more into the reality of what it means to be an alpha. So, according to Native American, I'm going to say the word mythology, but just how Native Americans relate to the wolf, because the wolf is a very important being in the cosmology and in the experience of many Native people. The wolf is the epitome, or is a powerful, clear example of trustworthy leadership, of courage, of precision, of specifically loyalty and commitment and strength and balanced, quiet power used in service for the greater whole. And I would like to think about these alphas because they are extremely powerful. Extremely, extremely powerful. And yes, they have a lot of aggression. They have a great capacity for aggression. But one of the virtues of the wolf is restraint and self-control, because the wolf holds that power and knows exactly how and when to use that power. The wolf has incredible instinct and incredible discernment about how to use their energy in the ways that are needed to protect or to nurture and to care. According to Rick McIntyre, the alpha is quietly in charge. The main characteristic of an alpha wolf, which there is an alpha male and an alpha female, is quiet confidence and quiet self-assurance. You know what you need to do. You know what's best for your pack. You lead by example. You're very comfortable with that. You have a calming effect. And I believe this is really, really powerful for us humans to be able to recognize. This changes the entire paradigm of what we think strong leadership is. Because there is a lot of myth and accepted attitude that a strong leader worthy of our respect and trust is one who is domineering, who is highly competitive, and who uses all of their power to gain everything they want without any regard to the individuals in which their choices affect. And we actually respect that, the taking all that I want and the not caring about anyone else. And then we judge the everyone else, thinking, well, they're not strongest. They're the weak. And so they are not deserving of respect. They are not deserving of care. And this is the narcissistic attitude that many of us unconsciously believe. And that's for many reasons, but I can say that with great confidence because it's something that we see. I mean, look at the President of the United States and his character. And he is the President of the United States in this country. And that's not just that. There are many people that have the greatest power that operate from these same principles, to take as much as they can and to be completely blind to the ways that their actions are directly harming other lives. Now imagine the safety that could be cultivated when we could actually feel that our alphas, the ones leading our pack, the ones responsible for caring for the pack, they use all of their strength, all of their power, all of their aggressiveness, all of their ability, their precision, their instinct to protect and to care for whom they are responsible for. I see this as extremely noble. Wolves are extremely noble creatures and extremely committed. And another important aspect of the alpha that I really, really resonate with is that there is this balance of your needs of yourself, your family, and your community. So every single action and use of power is taking all of these needs into account, and there is a harmony there. And as I'm growing in power and growing in conviction as a human being, I'm finding the balance of how to have compassion for everyone, and especially those that are really different than me, especially those that even hold opposite views as me, even those that are choosing the path of ignorance. And I say this with compassion because, for example, I'm a white person and I grew up in ignorance. I grew up around a culture that was ignorant to the fact that most of our cognitive bias is that white is best. And therefore, I really had to educate myself and to essentially recognize the ignorance of my people and to recognize what my ancestors have done to everyone else. And to, to sit with that and to contemplate that and to get myself out of ignorance so that I would be able to have empathy and respect for other people and, witness my own cognitive biases. And this isn't just towards whiteness, but towards anything that we view as other or weird, such as queerness or fatness or anything else, And so, therefore, when I see another being that is ignorant in some way, I'm trying to find the balance of, instead of just judging them or thinking that they are a bad person because they are perpetuating a belief that is directly harmful to another being, how do I hold to what I believe and my principles and my values and communicate that, but also not just shame them completely for being ignorant? Because I don't believe that being ignorant makes you evil. It just makes you ignorant. And so wolves really embody this ability to have a loyalty to your principles and a loyalty to the lives of others concomitantly. So at the same time, I'm holding fast to my values and I am not abandoning them. I'm not making them smaller or agreeing with things I don't agree with. And at the same time, I'm treating other people in a way that demonstrates that I see them in just respect and dignity as they inherently deserve, is the best thing I can do. And so, I've had experiences where I've been in the presence of individuals that have said some pretty ignorant things, and I'm getting better at just calmly sharing, hey, I don't appreciate you saying that. Or that's actually not what I believe, and this is what I truly believe is right. Or I don't appreciate this because it demonstrates intolerance or it demonstrates some sort of shame that you have towards this being or this group of people. And so, there's this courage to calmly share my true values and what I really think about that. But I don't do so in the way where I'm not thinking that this other person is evil. So in my own experience, that's been really powerful because I believe that is a balance that we need to strike. We need to be able to have conversations with people that think really differently than us and to be able to see nuance, that someone can be have a really big heart and love you a lot, and there can be a lot of love in the relationship, and there's still things, still beliefs that are really not life-serving, and instead of throwing away the whole relationship, there's an opportunity to seek shared understanding. And especially if you are very firm in your values and your integrity, and you have done a lot of thinking and contemplating about what matters and how to treat people right, we are the perfect ones to share what we believe, because someone else may never have been given that perspective, and so therefore it gives them an opportunity to actually understand their own biases and see the world in a more realistic way, in a more loving way. I believe the same thing about people who don't have good role models, who don't come from a loving family, who have never had elders or mentors. And so what they really desire for their life, or all of their values are colored by that. And so there's a great possibility for us that do have positive role models and that do walk with a lot of wisdom because of the mentorship that we have, to recognize, how their desires that don't have love and relationships at the center, that doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It just means that, they've never been shown another way. And I really believe that the medicine of the wolf helps us embody this sense of recognition that our perspective is valuable, our power and our firm values are really important, and they're important to share. And that's loving the pack. That's belonging. And I also believe that there's so much wisdom that the wolf gives us about what it actually means to belong and to really be a part of a family and to care, which is the same thing, is that it's not this abandonment of self. I mean, the alphas, okay, I read something that I think that both cases are true, and that many of the times the alpha is the one that eats the most, but also there are other cases where the alpha, makes sure that the children eat and that they'll eat a little bit less, So I think both are true, and I think that's beautiful that both are true. Because being a part of a family and having true belonging necessitates a really powerful connection to your sense of self. And belonging does not mean that you are abandoning yourself and you are giving everything away and you are not feeding yourself. It means that you feed yourself so that you may be able to the best of your ability, feed others. And it's about loyalty and commitment. It's been seen that many of the alphas will spend time with their cubs, even the runts of the pack. Now, this old alpha idea of taking everything and being just a domineering, aggressive one does not align with this idea that the alpha wolf is taking its time to spend time with the weakest of the pack. In this sense, commitment to family and to pack is unselfish. And there is a value of going out of your way to make sure that everyone is okay. And that everyone's life matters. And another thing I read about wolves and wolf medicine is that the alpha knows everyone's strengths. The alpha knows everyone's limitations. And therefore, the alpha then knows how to guide and lead everyone in their pack. And essentially gives everyone the chance to, I'm going to say shine, but use their skills, their strengths with their limitations in mind to be able to do what they can for the harmony of the group. And this ability in leadership to see everyone first with dignity and respect on an equal playing field, and then recognize everyone's strengths and everyone's limitations, and then have the discernment and the instinct to lead them and guide them in ways that are actually going to be supportive for them and therefore supportive to the thriving of the whole group. Woo! That is a leadership skill. That is a very powerful leadership skill. And I feel very inspired by that because that makes so much sense. That increases competency, self-esteem, and helps everyone feel that they are contributing. Because I truly believe that when everyone feels that they are doing their best in service to everyone else, that is when we really feel like we belong and that our life has value and it has meaning. So there's so many profound takeaways from the wolf. And lastly, I want to speak about the myth of the lone wolf. Apparently, lone wolves are actually really rare. A wolf that doesn't belong in a pack. And again, I was reading more of the Native American perspective on the wolf. And one thing I read is that the idea of the lone wolf is a symbol of a being who has lost himself, who is running away and avoiding himself. Because there is a need for solitude and being alone with oneself to get to know oneself. There is this characteristic that wolves are teachers. And wolves are really good at connecting to their own solitary time. And they experience and learn a lot in this time. But they always are returning back to their pack and teaching what they have learned. And what they are learning is always changing because they're always seeking to understand more, to experience more, to grow in more power and wisdom. And the lone wolf is just avoiding because deep down he knows that he is deeply yearning to be a part of a pack and to belong and to feel that his life is in service to something greater, which is the goodness, the harmony of his pack. Because when he finds himself, he will find a group to live with. He will find a community to be a part of. All that I know is only revealed in what I am. What I am translates only to what I apply in my relationships. I heal myself as I share the best that is in me, so that the best that is in everyone blossoms. This is the medicine of the wolf.